so much thinner.
Having a child.
Iron Warriors.
Yeah, Iron Warriors. Yeah. So okay. So I've done it. I've got the siege turret terminators.
Yes.
They're on the go. I've got 2 Leviathans who are ready. I've got new weapons for them, which have arrived now. And
Cyclonic Metal Lances,
so they
claws.
And claws, yeah. So they're going to be messing things up. I've got my Predators on the go. It's really now, it's just batch painting, which is going to be easy. Mark III Space Marines.
Yep.
And a few extra bits. I've already got a Spartan ready, but I'm also building I picked up a Proteus.
Nice.
To travel around in. But I did discuss this with you a little bit. I do have a major dilemma. And that is that when we initially worked out my Iron Warriors list,
yes,
you worked out a fantastic Tartaros Warsmith with the claws and the Jew, the blur, so that he gets 1 million attacks with his big blur, his claw, and a bunch of Tartaros. And I looked into how the Terminators work, and the Tartaros can run and they're fast, and the Cataphracti are tough, but they're really slow, and it's blah blah blah. But then they had to go ahead and show off that brand new Cataphracti Warsmith, and I don't know if Iron Warriors have had a model for the last 250 years, so it feels like I really have to get that Cataphracti Warsmith.
If it was me, I think it's a Warhammer World exclusive. You have to go to Warhammer.
No, there's
World
2. So you get one who's standing there with his hammer and a firearm. I'm not sure what he's got in the other hand. Might be a combi weapon or something. And then there's one who's holding the hammer in his hands like that, which is a Warhammer World exclusive.
Does it come with the claw as well?
They're both exactly the same. It's just opposing. If anyone's going to Warhammer World, hit me up on Discord, because I'll need that, and it's quite a long way to go.
Yeah, you are on the south coast.
Yeah, we have to go all the way up.
Yeah,
north way.
Well, if you were doing Iron Warriors,
yes,
if Games Workshop release a specific Praetor Warsmith for Iron Warriors, and you haven't got it, are you really doing Iron Warriors?
No. So I'm going to have to change that up. But the problem is Cataphracti are more expensive.
Yeah.
And they're slow. So they're going to have to bundle in. I'm going to have to figure that one out. But what I'm thinking of doing is both.
Okay.
So I've got the Tartaros Terminators ready.
Yep.
Do a command squad. Do a Tartaros Warsmith. Do a Cataphracti command squad. Cataphracti Warsmith. I've got options.
So do the Tartarus one with a pair of lightning claws and the servo arm with the banner command squad in the Land Raider, and then because your OG list, I made it exactly 3,000 points.
Yeah.
And if you switch that to Cataphracti, and he hasn't got lightning claws, but he's got a thing and a thing, and then you're probably spending about 50 points more. So you're going to need to find 50 points somewhere. You're probably dropping the unit of scouts.
Yep.
And then it'll give you 30 points to spend on more goodies elsewhere on some of the units to give them some goodies.
Some flavors.
Yeah.
But that's where we're going. So I feel good. I feel like it's progressing nicely. Iron Warriors are really quite easy to paint, and I've got my little scheme going. I'm using the Vallejo metallics. Are just beautiful. I've got one called Exhaust Manifold, and it leaves such a beautiful finish, metal finish. So I really recommend those if you're doing Iron Warriors.
Well, all the Vallejo staff went on strike, and at the time of filming, they're still on strike because Vallejo aren't paying them enough.
Oh,
so,
come on, Vallejo. You've got really good metallics, although you can't put them on a wet palette. Don't put them on a wet palette, because they immediately burst into the little bits of metal that make it up, or the pigment.
Could you put their metallics on a wet penguin?
I think it would have a similar outcome, but I think
feathers are sticky though, right?
Sure. Feathers are sticky, but penguins are moist. They look moist.
Yeah, generally speaking, penguins are moist.
Have you ever seen a penguin in real life, like in the flesh?
Well, yes. Been to a zoo.
Yeah, they're not what you think, are they? They're smaller than you think.
Well, it depends on the size of the penguin. I've actually seen penguins in the wild as well. There's not all penguins live in the snowy place. There's many penguins that live like down in Wales, southwest Wales. Forget where that beach is called. You see penguins and seals off the coast of there.
That's another reason for us to reconquer Wales.
Yeah.
and turn it back into the mainland Britain,
have got
so
a bit
that we can
feral
get penguins.
Welsh, haven't they?
Yeah. The ones that we know,
right,
dangerous, aren't they? And feral.
Dangerous and feral. Yeah. So the thing I'm most interested in finding out, Chris, is how you're getting on with your Iron Warriors project, because I gave you some list ideas. You're getting into Heresy for the first time, and I'm very excited to know where you are with that project, because the clock is ticking, mofo.
The clock is ticking. I've got multiple things that Iron Warriors are going to be needed for next year. So it's, I'm doing pretty good, actually. I have got, let's say I've got a little bit done from every area, from every little part of it. So I've got some, I'm actually, because it's your fault, by the way.
Sorry.
I'm leaning heavily into those Siege Tyrant Terminators, which are...
You only have one specific Iron Warriors data sheet detached to the thing.
Yeah, one special.
Other people have many. You have one, so go hard. I'm not saying do 20 of them, but definitely go 10.
What would you say if I told you that I might have 25 of them by accident?
And that sounds glorious. I don't know. I mean, at 4,000 points and 5,000 points, if you come around here to film a battle report and you whop down 25 on the table, that would be glorious to see it. By the time this video comes out, by the way, you will see, actually this one might be coming out on the Friday, I don't know, but around the time this video comes out, I do a 5,000 point battle report, and the Iron Warriors are in it on Horus Heresy, the Drop Site Massacre, Islam 5. You'll get to see 10 Tyrant Siege Terminators with an Armistos in it, and just how good they can be. So that's one for you. I did it. I filmed that one exclusively for you. If I get one view and it's you,
it's me. It is going to be me, because the Armistos turns them from a horrible unit into a unit where you might actually need a bucket to throw up in, because that's like 20. That's a lot of guys firing a lot of missiles, hitting on twos, right? Yes. And they can choose crack missiles, which are going to do a lot of damage, and they get 3 each.
They get 2 shots each, but on return fire. So you're going to put a banner in there with a herald, so they can't shroud, but they're always going to be returning fire. So they're going to be firing in your turn, my turn, if someone's crazy enough to target them. And the Iron Warriors, once per battle stratagem, is to fire back twice. So that's 40 shots. The most important thing about them, though, is with the Armistos in there, he ignores night fighting, so you can't shroud any of these shots coming through. Plus, you're Iron Warriors, so when you're shooting those strength 8 missiles at tanks and dreadnoughts and automata, it's strength 9 missiles. It's really good.
Okay. All right. So I was thinking, I want to expand. Obviously, the clues in the name. By
mistake. By the way, 25 by mistake. How did that happen on accident?
We don't need to talk about it, but an accidental second order of the same thing.
Okay.
Just forget about it. I also have a friend of mine is a friend of the channel and of us printed me some as well, some nice ones. Okay. But we don't talk about that.
To mix them in amongst
the official ones. They're quite expensive.
Don't tell anyone, particularly don't tell Games Workshop.
I won't tell them.
A couple of my Terminators that may have 3D prints mixed in there as well. I don't 3D print myself, but there may be a couple of them. And if anyone could spot one in the battle report, hats off to you, because I can't spot them. Now I've painted them and put them in there.
But I know Games Workshop watch this podcast religiously, so anything that we say can't be used against us in a court of law, because we make everything up. So everything we say is just made up. It's just for fun. It's just for jokes.
Yeah, plus they'd have to catch us. And I don't know about you, but if they came for me, I'd definitely take all my clothes off and dip my body in baby oil beforehand. I'd be very slick.
That's what I do when I leave the house anyway. I always never leave the house without greasing up.
Otherwise you could chafe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I use Lurpak because I like it to be special. And plus, if anyone licks me, it's quite nice. The
problem with the Lurpak, though, is friction. The heat can build up if you use buttery substances for lubrication. You need an oil-based substance, because then it doesn't heat up. No comment on what might be coming, why the friction, why the heat might be building up. But don't use vegetable products or dairy-based products. If you're trying to go for some lubrication, oil is the way forward.
Okay. I'll swap over to the baby oil. That's fine. Yeah. Thanks for that. That's really useful.
Lard works as well.
Yeah. That's just animal fats, isn't it? So it's just putting some of the fat that's on your inside on your outside. So what could be wrong with that?
And we've both got some of that.
I've got it. Yeah, I'm trying to cut down. I don't know if you can tell. I've been. No, okay. What are you currently doing on the old Horus Heresy front? Have you finished the Raven Guard?
Yes. Well, 2024 was the Iron Hands project, and I've been smashing Iron Hands all the way through 2024. There was some timeouts there. I did some 13th, I did some Custodes, and I added some. I added some other things, but I have finished my Iron Hands project except for one model, just standing up there looking at me, which is Ferrus Manus.
And a second model, right?
What?
Because did they not just reveal an Iron Hand as well the week after the Iron Warrior?
Did they?
Yes, there's a new Iron Hand. You have to.
No, I'm gonna have to get another model. I'm looking at over there. My Volkite team, the later Rapier teams, all the stuff finished off, and up there is Ferrus Manus ready to go. And I'm looking forward to making a video on the Iron Hand, showing off everything I did in the last year, but why I picked the things that I picked.
Yeah.
And why I'm going the way I'm going.
Which I'll be watching, because I like to hear the justification for this.
Yeah, and then 2025 was going to be my year of let's catch up with some other legions and things. Plus, there's a large order going off the Den of Imagination to add to the 40k stuff, but that's a whole other thing, adding to the Dark Angels. And then Wrath of Constantine, who we know very well.
We do know him very well.
Asked a question about Night Lords.
Yes.
And how would I go about doing it? And then I answered the question about Night Lords, and he said, thank you very much, and watched the live stream and said, I'm going to completely ignore you.
Oh.
And I've been thinking about the lists that I came up with for the Night Lords. And I'm going through each Legion. I did Isfan 3, now I'm on Isfan 5. Night Lords are on Isfan 5. So the 2025 project is going to be Night Lords. You've heard it here first for the first time. So I'm going to do those two lists that I told him to do, plus a bunch of... It looks about 6,000 points worth of Night Lords I'll smash in.
Your list idea was to have Night Lords supported by lots of heavy stuff, wasn't it? It was like rapier.
Well, there's two. The Night Lords do two things really well. One is stay back and shoot during night time, and two is after they've weakened you and the sun comes up, then they hit you.
Yes,
that's what Night Lords do. And you can put those two together at a 3,000 point list, but they won't do either of them well. So I've come up with two lists. One is a very shooty one, and one is a very punchy one. And if I do both of them, then I can play them both a different way. And then the punchy one is very pinny, because Night Lords like to pin and make you fall back and make you... So I'm going to do both sides of the coin. And so I can play that list, I can play that list, and this is what I recommend to anyone doing Horus Heresy. Pick 2 Rites of War, try and do 2 Rites of War, build 2 Rites of War, because then essentially you've got 3 lists. You've got the one list, the other list, and a mix of the 2 lists. And then obviously you've got to add in all the Legion-specific stuff that you can only get for that Legion. You need... the Primarch, you need the whatever it is, Dark Furies or Invictara Suzerain or Terra Squads. You need to get these things. They're only available for that Legion in that game.
So do it.
Yeah.
So Iron Warriors, the problem is with Iron Warriors with that is that their second Rite of War is all about, I mean, it's beautiful. I love it. It's all about mass bombardment.
Yeah.
And you actually just need completely different stuff. I need like a battery of those very, very expensive, is it manticores or whatever they are, the bombardment things. But it sounds so fun.
Well, I would. So for the Night Lords, for example, and also for the Raven, good example for the Raven Guard is I picked Decapitation Strike, which is one of their specific Rites of War. This is what my lists, my collection. I've got about 6,000 points of Raven Guard. It's built around Decapitation Strike, which is one of them. And the second one is Legion Recon Company, which is a generic one.
Right.
I'm not going for the second Rite of War. And the same with the Night Lords. I'm going with Terror Assault and Pride of Legion. So I'm going with 2 Rites of War. Yeah. But the second one is not the Legion-specific Rite of War. Because it's also got to appeal to you and what you want to do on the tabletop. It's also got to match your wallet. Like both of the lists that I built around the Night Lords are available mainly in plastic, so you can get the models now, and you can do the thing. So the second one for Iron Warriors, it'll be very expensive. And,
yes. I believe Night Lord's second Rite of War, their Legion one, is like a really weird Hero Hammer style Rite of War, where you have like, it's all based around having HQ choices that are quite powerful, and then go around on bikes and stuff. It's really weird. It's not at all what I expected, but it is weird. But once I've done the Iron Warriors, I do actually have all the bits and pieces to do Alpha Legion as well.
Ooh.
So, which will be, I think, a bit of a change of pace.
They function completely differently to Iron Warriors.
Yes, absolutely.
They're a tricksy legion. I mean, I imagine once you've done, what might happen is you'll do the Iron Warriors, you'll get up a good 3,000 point list. You'll play a chunk of games here or there. You're doing them at Weekend at Bernie's. You're doing them when we go to the Murder House. We're going to get them on the channel. And then what normally happens after you play a game with your miniatures a few times, you're like, well, I need to add another 1,000 points to that collection so I can do this sort of thing. So this is because there's another thing you could do with the Iron Warriors, which we haven't gone down, is if you really want to paint lots and lots of miniatures, and if the paint scheme's good, lean into the Fury of the Olympia pinning and bolters, and with apothecaries everywhere. Because I think both of the lists I've written you, or the main list I've written you's only got like 20 or 30 of those guys.
Yeah.
But there is a list out there where you bring 100 Iron Warriors with apothecaries.
Yeah. So the original list I sent to you, I've already purchased the apothecaries, and I bought
60 guys,
60 Mark III. Yeah. Which I can either use them for something else, or I could lead into that. We could have a massive infantry section for the Iron Warriors, or just have it anyway. For fun, because they are without doubt going to be the quickest to paint, and on top of that, if you paint them as Iron Warriors and then you put the contrast Archelian green over it, they become Alpha Legion. So
green,
there's one
Alpha
step.
Legion?
Yeah, Archelian green. It's like a turquoisey color. It's not really green. It's, however, little lore tidbit for you, by the way.
Yeah.
What color is the Alpha Legion armor in the lore?
Well, it's sea green. Well, sea blue. It's turquoisey. Let's say turquoise.
So that's what you think.
It's turquoise.
But in the lore itself, in the books, it says that Alpha Legion operators have been spotted in green, purple, copper, grey, all the different colours. They do not have a fixed armour colour. And not only that, but that half the time they're just dressing up as other people anyway and tricking people.
Is that a 30k thing?
That is a 30k thing. I promise you. 30k. Yeah, maybe in 40k they've settled on that weird green colour. But in 30k, Alpha Legion operators have been spotted wearing all colours of armour, so people can't recognise who they are initially from sight. Apart from the one little flaw that I've seen in it, and that is that they keep putting Hydra logos in places. It's like, and then they snuck to the secret base, and on the gate was a Hydra. And it's like, that's...
Well, there's Alpha Legion, and then there's Alpha Legion. It's a bit like Raven Guard and Raven Guard. There's Alpha Legion operatives and Alpha Legion strike teams that go in and take over planets. Mm-hmm. And those operatives, I imagine, are painting all sorts of things on their armor.
Yes.
Like one Alpha Legionary can take over a planet rather easily. And then Raven Guard also operate in strike teams a lot of the time as well in the Heresy. It is rare for them to deploy on Legion strength. It's rare for the Alpha Legion to deploy on Legion strength. And I imagine when they deploy as a 3,000 point force or bigger, then they tend to stick to the script in that case.
Yeah.
And deploy as Alpha Legion. But they are Alpha Legion, so you can get away with anything you want to do. Just Craig is doing a whole Alpha Legion scheme where they're half 1,000 Suns and half Alpha Legion. You know when people do that paint scheme?
Yeah, the half thing.
Halfway through the body and they're there.
Yeah.
Because you can add any unit from another faction into Alpha Legion. That's their special
Spoils
thing.
of War, yeah.
Yeah, so he's adding some Thousand Suns stuff in there. So his Alpha Legion have been pretending to be Thousand Suns.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Mine, I was very cheeky and I picked up the special Terminators for the Salamanders, the ones with the big shields and the hammers. That's my... is it Spoils 4? It's something like that. And you also... I love their stuff. It's not something that I wanted. As soon as I picked up a bunch of Alpha Legion stuff, I realised this is not the army to start Horus Heresy with.
No.
You get stuff like extra victory points if they die first, and if you kill your like stolen unit first, and all kinds of stuff. And I watched a couple of battle reports, and you're depending on little like 5-man squads to like quickly kill people and then die, like assassinate people with melters and then die. And you've got a character that the enemy can't even shoot at because they think it's their own guy who's just walking around the battlefield. It sounds great, but I'm like, this is difficult to just walk into this game doing Alpha Legion.
I mean, the idea of turning up with 10 Tyrant Siege Terminators in an Alpha Legion force, or turning up with some Dark Furies in an Alpha Legion force, is the fact that those guys were Alpha Legion all along, fighting for the Raven Guard, or for the Iron Warriors, or for the Ultramarines. They've infiltrated all the other legions. And at this specific battle on this specific thing that you happen to be playing, they called upon those guys to leave that legion and come and join them because they're adding the... So, yeah, even the Galval back who fight for the Alpha Legion are actually Alpha Legionaries.
That's an odd one, though, isn't it? That's an odd one. That we as part of our process, we went and got possessed by demons. I guess they're committed to the art, right?
They're committed to the art. They're Alpha Legion.
Yeah.
In the word bear. I know, that's a cheeky one to do, but people do it. Yeah. But that's the lore reason for it. Like, I'm turning up with some Caliban Knights from the Dark Angels in my Alpha Legion force. Why have you got them there? Well, they've been part of the Dark Angels for the last 100 years and fighting with the Dark Angels, and they've been recalled during the Horus Heresy. This is now the Heresy, and they've been recalled to the Alpha Legion to fight with the Alpha Legion.
And I just love their lore in general, just how different they are. They're fantastic. And I thought that they were just like small operators, blah, blah, blah. But I was reading Scars, and in Scars, they turn up in full Void War force. They are capable of still engaging in mass battles. I haven't... you don't see as much of them deploying giant ground forces, but they definitely are capable of large-scale void warfare.
Yeah, in Legion, I mean, you've done Legion, right? That book.
Yeah. Legion is
in
lovely.
That, right at the end, they deploy in a force. In their Primarch's book, Alfarius, which is one of the best Primarch books, of the 3 best Primarch books released, by far and away above any other Primarch books, is Alfarius, Constantine, and Kurz. Night Lords. But in the Alpha Legion, in they don't ever deploy en masse in that, but at the end of the book, essentially, the end of the book is when they suddenly announce themselves to the other legions.
Yes.
And they turn up and say, "Hi, we're here to the Dark Angels, we're here to help you." And they deploy in Legion Force, and the book ends.
Yeah.
But they deploy. When they deploy, they are still a legion. They still have access to all the Legion stuff. They still are legionaries through and through. But that's not that's not how they function most of the times pre-Horus Heresy.
Yeah, and I think Legion... I've met loads of people who don't like the book Legion. I don't understand why. I think it's fantastic, and I love seeing a Legion that operates not in your traditional send a bunch of dudes in and blow everyone up.
Yeah.
I love all the little clandestine meetings and the little tricksy guys, and there's the guy you can't see his face, and there's all kinds of stuff going on there. And I even love John Grammaticus in there. I love how he's drawn into the whole thing, and it really I think Alpha Legion before Legion really had no major appeal because you didn't don't hear about them as much. You didn't
no
really
one
know
knew
as
anything about
much.
them before that book. No.
Yeah, and that book gave them such wonderful character. I think it was. Yeah, it's a definite read.
See, this is the STC. This is a lore podcast.
It is,
and one of the reasons why I like it is because lore-wise, it makes perfect sense that you have a legion like the World Eaters that just eat worlds.
Yeah.
You've got a legion like the Iron Hands that functioned hand in hand with the Mechanicum, and they had a whole Ark fleet going around with them and worked on. They were the mechanics. They were building up and inventing new things. You had a legion like the Iron Warriors, who were the architects. They were supposed to lay the roads and build the cities and build the walls. They're the ones who ended up tearing it all down. That's how the Emperor used it. But you have a legion that's designed to do this. You have a legion that's designed to do that. You've got the Raven Guard, which is the SAS Legion. They're designed to get in behind enemy lines. And you have a legion like the Alpha Legion, which were essentially designed from the ground up to fight singularly or in squads. They're the CIA. They're the James Bond,
the spooky ones.
And of course, the Emperor would have made legionaries who could be James Bond and take on whole planets on their own and turn them to the cause. Of course, he would. And that also makes me wonder about the two lost legions, like because he's got a whole legion of Psychers, the Thousand Sons. Mm-hmm. The legions have a specific role. They're many blades in the Swiss Army knife. He's got the corky one. He's got the one that gets the stuff out the hooves of the horse. He's got all the things. The Thunder Warriors were a single-purpose blunt instrument.
Yes.
The legionaries, 20 different flavors in the quality box to try and unify the galaxy. And it makes it's such a weapon to have spies. And he's got spies and he's got assassins in it. But of course, he'd build legionaries as well that would fulfill that role. And the Alpha Legion and Dan Abnett's book Legion it gets across that feel so well, it's so delicious. Competently. I love it.
I think that might be why some people struggle with it, because the tone suddenly shifts from an epic. It's quite early on in the series, right? It's I can't remember where it's played after Mechanical.
7 or 8 or something.
Yeah, it's fairly early, and you've just gone through like the whole initial Horus arc, the first 3 Horus Heresy books, and then Flight of the Eisenstein. Then after Flight of the Eisenstein, it kind of cuts off, and then you start moving on to other stories. And I think the pace is so suddenly different with Legion. But honestly, give it a go. If you've read it before in the past and you weren't sure about it, give it a second go, because I think I've listened to it twice now. And the second time I got way more out of it,
dude,
than the first time.
You just highlighted one of the things, because I'm doing the whole of Horus Heresy on audio for the first time. I've read them, all of them, more than once. But one of the things I've noticed about Graham McNeill, before we get into Damn That, Graham McNeill's writing style is he always starts slow. There's always a really long, like Mechanicum's got a long build up. Thousand Sons have got a long build up. But Thousand Sons and Mechanicum are 2 of my favorite books in the Heresy, because that long build up keeps building and gets really epic and powerful towards the end. And you know that's what you're getting with the Graham McNeill book. Like, okay, this is going to take the first 3 hours, 4 hours, it's going to be hard, but then it will keep going, and like a snowball that starts at the top of the mountain turns into this avalanche by the time it gets to the bottom. That's Graham McNeill. Dan Abnett books have got so many layers to it. They're both of these writers as well, very character driven, which I like. But Dan Abnett books move around quite a bit. They're quite nebulous sometimes. The Legion is specifically like that. No Fear jumps around. One of my favorite books in the Heresy as well. Jumps around a lot. That's the Ultramarines one. Between many major characters as he tells the story of the destruction of Calth. And the first time you go through that, there's so much going on. It's a great book. And in Legion, there's so much going on. It's a great book. Like, you don't even know who Alfarius is, who this John Chromaticus is, the Geno 95 Chiliad, you know. There's so much going on. Almost all of Dan Abnett's books, well, many of Dan Abnett, a lot of Dan Abnett books are much better the second time round, because you pick out so much more, because they move around so much, and because he puts so many layers in them. The End and the Death is a perfect example at the end of the Horus Heresy. 3 huge books one huge book, part 1, part 2, part 3. But the second time you listen to it or read it, so much more comes out. There's so much depth in there. I think that's just a Dan Abnett thing. I think a lot of people have read Legion and thought, oh, that was okay, or that was good, or that was... But the ones who, almost all of the people that I've spoken to who love it, like we love it, have listened to it already at least twice. Yeah. Like, this is a fantastic book. Legion is up there with one of my best books in the Heresy. Oh, yes. I put them in the top 5. We need to do like a top 5 books of the Heresy or something like that. I need to find out where your allegiances lie, you War Master, Warsmith, you. We'll put that in the old cauldron of ideas. Stir it in the pot. Because we do like talking about our lovely books. And I've got to say as well, I'm still working my way, because I have the privilege of going through the Siege of Terra for the first time, as I mentioned last time. And I'm on chapter 15 of the First Wall, and I adore this book so much. You did the Solar War. So I jumped straight to the First Wall. I'm going to go back. Did you do the Solar War? No, I'm going back. You didn't do the Solar War? Listen, the reason why I went to the First Wall... Wait, listen. The reason why I went to the First Wall is because I wanted to get Iron Warriors. I wanted to get Iron Warriors hyped. Right. But I've been... Funnily enough, I don't care about the Iron Warriors in this. Imperial Fist. I don't care about the Imperial Fist either. I love following this... what are they called? The Abada? The factory workers who get basically pulled out the factory and sent on a massive train. Okay, you'll love that twist to the front lines. Oh, okay. Yeah, the factory workers that get sent in there to do. Yeah, that's one of the things that happens with the Siege of Terror is all the little stories that are not Legion specific are so good. Yeah, and add so much. So that made me go, right, I need to go back, do this properly, because the Legions, I know them already. I mean, there's some really cool stuff going on at the moment where I'm in the middle of a really cheeky plan from the Iron Warriors to sneak 1,000 Iron Warrior legionaries into the Lions spaceport. And the Lions Gate. I'm not going to, don't talk about it anymore, are they? Because a couple of things. Iron Warriors, you have done Angel Exterminatus, right? Twice. Yes. So that's that's a really good Iron Warriors book. Okay, fantastic. The End and the Death, book 3. There's a short story right at the start called what is your saying? Iron Within? Iron Within, it's called. The Fragments with Iron Within with Perturabo, book 3. And that is the best short story, Iron Warriors short story ever written, ever. Okay. I love that one when you hit that one. I've read all the separate short stories. Yeah, okay. So what happens in The End and the Death is Dan Abnett, there's a dozen chapters. No, there's a dozen chapters in the first, second, and third book. So 30 plus chapters where the main story goes all the way along like this, and he cuts it up, and all of a sudden so you do chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and then fragments, and it'll be a fragment, a couple of pages or 10 pages of something with some humans somewhere, and then chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7, fragments, a couple, and then it'll be a short story with something else. Fillers, basically. Yeah. But some of those are some of the best narrative from the Siege of Terror. And the Iron Within with Perturabo at the end brings the two halves of Perturabo together, because that's a whole other conversation about how poorly he's represented during the Horus Heresy. There's 2 Perturabos on the page, which we can go into that if you want to. And thirdly, I'm disappointed that you didn't do the Solar War, because that's the space battle, and that one's awesome. I have it, and I need to go back, because I know why I need to know about that now, because we're already at there's been a massive void conflict out by Pluto, and that's coming to an end, and I'm like, okay, well, I've got to go find out about that now. I was singularly focused on Iron Warriors, just getting that kind of hype for it, and then realized very quickly that I adore these books, not because of the Legion that I'm currently painting or whatever, but because the whole setting is incredible. So I'm going to go back and do it properly, but I have to finish the First Wall, because I really want to know what happens to. Do you remember Solar War? Do you remember Mercedes Ollerton from the first 3 books, the imagist that would take pictures with her eye And Mercedes Ollerton was one of the few survivors, along with Euphrates Keeler.
Yes.
She hung out with Ignace Karski, the poet.
And again, they were the people that gave us the most recognizable perspective of that little arc as well.
And Acton Cruz got them off onto the Eisenstein, Flight of the Eisenstein. Those Mercedes Ollerton's in it, Loken's in it, in the Solar War. You want to go back and do that. And there are things that happen. If you jump ahead in the siege, then they'll tell you what happened here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't want to know that.
Honestly, I'm quite envious of the fact that you're doing the Siege of Terra for the first time. And if you're in the hobby, and if you like the Heresy, and even if you like 40k, what have you got? See, here's the thing. If we loved football, right, we'd be talking about football all the time. This year, next year, the year after, who's playing for this, and you talk about it, and people who say, well, I'm not going to do the Horus Heresy because it's so long. It's 60 books plus the short stories plus the Siege of Terra. It's like 70 odd books. Well, I'm not going to.
Just start it.
If you're in the hobby, what are you doing with it? If you were a football fan, you'd be talking about football for a decade, 20 years, 30 years. You'd be talking. If you love this hobby and it's going to take you 5 years, 10 years to do the whole of the Horus Heresy on Audible all the way through, or whatever. What else are you doing with your time when you're painting? Just do it.
Tell you what I've done.
Dive into it. Do every single one.
I've got a 20-minute drive in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I do every single day. I go 20 minutes on the way there.
Yep.
20 minutes on the way back.
Nice.
And then I put it on with a half an hour timer when I go to bed.
Nice.
And I'd say 4 out of 7 days in the week, I fall asleep before the end of it and have to find where I was again.
That's fine.
But I'm getting approximately an hour a day, and the books are, 9, 10, 11 hours long each.
The smaller
roughly.
ones are like 9, 10. The bigger ones, like Graham McNeil, he'll love an 18-hour book, that fella.
Yeah. But that's maybe you can get through a whole one maybe every week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on how closely I follow that. So really, if you want to get Audible, you get one a month with your Audible credit.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do deals where you get multiple ones, and just work your way through, and you will concrete your love for the setting and the universe, or you shouldn't. Like, I don't know why you're into it anyway, because the scale of the whole Warhammer 40k and 30k universe is just desperate for people to look into it. Now, there is a thing that I am very aware of, and that is that we do talk a lot about 30k lore and not so much about 40k lore, although they are very heavily interconnected. Well, I think really the reason for that is that 30k has been crafted with a lot of love, right? Its stories, the game has been around for a while, but I think its stories were allowed to be told as stories without having to drive the marketing for 40k. So it was written with, I think, a bunch of people came together and they worked out this big narrative arc and everything, and they fleshed it out. Because all the way back to the very beginning of my Warhammer hobby, back in the early 90s, I knew about the not necessarily the Horus Heresy, but I knew that the big event was Horus, Sanguinius, the Emperor, and there was that diorama and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I guess what we need is we either need a 40k arc, which we've talked before, they have been talking about doing something like this, that can rival it, which is going to be extremely hard, I think, for them to get anywhere close to it. Or enjoy the 30k lore and play the 40k game as a fun war tabletop game. But trust me, the 30k lore is just so good. It's so beautiful.
30k lore, I don't think there's been another genre geeky thing where someone sat down to do one huge story.
Yeah.
I mean, the Star Wars Expanded Universe comes close, but there's disparate stories there. This is one thing. The 40k lore is much, much, much vaster.
Yeah.
Wider, bigger. But it isn't one story. There are lots and lots of individual stories. So currently in the lore, we've got the Pariah Nexus, and that's where Wormwood is quite now. Then we've got Leviathan and the attack through Pacificus on the Western Front. So you've got those things coming along, let alone the Great Rift and Vigilus and all that going on. But those are 3 individual stories. And then on the book side of things, I don't know if you've done Gaunt's Ghost yet, or the Night Lords trilogy, which are my Eisenhorn, which would be my go-to series for 40k. And again, those are all individual stories. They're all fantastic. 10 out of 10 would bang.
I feel like Night Lords, the Night Lords trilogy,
Eisenhorn and Ravener.
The Night Lords trilogy is a bit of a trick because it's not really a 40k book, but it is, and it
ends when the Great Rift starts.
Yeah, but it's not quite. It's set in a weird time.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
That's not quite modern 40k because Chaos are just not greatly written for the most part in the modern. The traitor factions are not greatly written in the modern, very, very modern setting.
The other thing about it is, like, Gaunt's Ghosts was set around the modern time, but Eisenhorn Ravener was set hundreds of years before.
Yeah.
And Gaunt himself refers to the Spheres of Longing, which is one of the books written by Ravener, a few times during the series. But what they've done with the Eisenhorn Ravener is they've retconned it. So they moved it up. So Eisenhorn Ravener, not the very early starts of the but it is now, Ravener is now in the current, and Eisenhorn are now in the current setting.
Right, okay.
And but previously, back when it was started, it was a couple hundred years, I think it was 200 years before the clock struck midnight with the Great Rift ripping across the galaxy. But it's easier to talk about Heresy lore because it's one huge story than it is to talk about 40k lore, which is many, many, many more stories, but stories.
Yeah. And that's not to say there aren't great stories going on in the 40k lore. I've listened to, I should really say it like it is. I listen to all my books now on Audible. I did used to read them on Kindle, but now it's so much easier to have someone read it to me while I'm driving.
Nice.
And I have a real bad tendency to fall asleep or keep reading the same line infinitely when I'm reading text on a page. But anyway, it's allowed me access to all the stories. There are still some great 40k stories, but if I feel like the 30k gives you such a good, it makes 40k more exciting because it gives you the foundations that all this is based on. As well.
See, the 40k thing is, so the Arcs of Omen series that they did in the run-up to 10th edition was normally the Gathering Storm series, which they did in the run-up to 8th edition, where Guilliman woke up, that series, which you can't get anymore, wasn't written in books. It was written in those supplements. And one of the 3 supplements is actually, the narrative is actually well written and really good. The other 2 suck. Now, the events in the Gathering Storm are all very important and everyone needs to know them. And the fact that Games Workshop do not sell that as a single omnibus for people to buy right now, just all the narrative crammed together, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
But all the lore people out there, lore videos get many, many more video views than painting videos, battle reports, things like that. That should be sold as an individual omnibus. And Arcs of Omen was the best narrative structured thing that they've ever done for 40k, because normally the best narrative comes from the Black Library writers, who are professional writers, not from the studio. But the Arcs of Omen storyline, it works and it's clever and there's some epic moments in it, and it really, at the end with Caliban, Wormwood, that whole thing, it really adds something to the current setting of 40k, and I'd love to talk to you about it. But how many people actually got the Arcs of Omen and read it, or just got it offline? And there isn't a Black Library series around it. That is the jumping off point. You know, when we talk about they need to do a Heresy-esque series for 40k, what they need to do is get Chris Wright, Graham McNeil, Dan Abnett, Aaron Dembski-Bowden together in a room, Guy Haley, a few of the others, and say, right, we're going to do a 20-book series now from the end of the Arcs of Omen, and we're going to go all the way through and make a piece of work which nails down 40k with all the disparate story threads and all the disparate things. We're going to nail it down here, and we're going to call it whatever you want to call it. Boom. This is the big boom. It's now, and if you are actually a 40k fan and you haven't got this, are you really a 40k fan sort of thing? And in there they can have, there's so much things they could do there. They could time it with, like, book 5 could come out with the awakening of Vulcan, for example, along with 11th edition launch, and Vulcan is in the box. And then book 10 could come out with the 12th edition launch, and it is the return of Perturabo, and he's on the launch box.
Yeah.
They could imagine if that's what 40k did right now. That you got 11th edition, 12th edition, 13th edition, and running concurrently to it is a massive book series with the Yellow King, for example. Everyone's talking about the Yellow King and the Pariah series and when and how. And by the way, Dan Abnett has said that Pandemonium, which is book 3 of the Pariah series, next, that's been pushed back. Probably, I hope, because they want to tie it in with some merch launches.
Okay.
Hopefully around a box. Look, so hopefully they're doing this, because if they did that, do you realize how much more stuff they would sell?
Yeah.
Horus Heresy, it doesn't go this way around. Normally they make the miniatures, and off the back of the miniatures they make the rules, and off the back of the miniatures and the rules and the game, then the book series comes out, then Gaunt's Ghost comes out, then Eisenhorn comes out, then that's how the book series, the book came off the back of the miniatures. It doesn't go the other way around, where they write a book series which is so successful that they make a miniature series, and now we've got the whole of the Horus Heresy range out there. That's how powerful a marketing tool that is. And if they did that now, and I know Games Workshop watch this, we know Games Workshop watch all of these videos, they're listening to this, someone in the head office is scribbling this down now. They need a 20 book series for 40k. What a massive marketing tool it would be. We know they're returning the Primarchs. We've seen more Primarchs come back. Demon Primarchs, good guy Primarchs. This is how they should. If I was in charge of Games Workshop, this is how I would do it. I would time it, get it together. Boom, do it that way.
Well, let's
make money, yo.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way, right? Why is it that Warhammer, out of that there are many, many tabletop miniature games, they all have their own narrative and things like that, and little scraps of lore here and there, blah, blah, blah. Why is it that there are so many fans who are almost lifelong dedicated to this hobby over all these other ones? And it's because, like Star Wars fans and Trekkies and all this kind of stuff, there's so much to dive into. There's so much depth to it that it becomes something that you can't tackle in a little phase. Oh, I was into Warhammer for 3 weeks. You know, there's other reasons to it, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
But there's so much they could do with it.
Yeah.
And it's
the best thing they ever did. It's like, it's not just a card game, done. It's not just a video game, done. They started off with the miniatures, and now it's books, miniatures, card games, video games, everything. That by expanding, the best thing Games Workshop ever did was continually expand their IP and protect their IP to make sure that stuff comes out like that Space Marine 2. Even the crappy video games that come out, they're very protective of their IP. I hope they continue to do that going forward, because we've seen what's happened to some other IPs out there when they get a bit woolly around the edges. But if they continue to protect their IP, and there's every indication from their past behavior that they'll continue to do that going forward, if they continue to protect their IP and continue to expand their IP, that is what has turned them from a baby company which was selling stuff out of a flat in London to an FTSE 100 $1 billion company. One of the FTSE 100, they're going to it like in January. They're launching on the FTSE 100. That's one of the top 100 companies in the UK. Yeah,
the FTSE.
The FTSE index.
And you know what the beautiful thing is, though?
You know they're building another factory. Did you know that?
Are they?
Yeah,
that's good.
So Factory 5 is getting built. Then they're building the paint thing, and then they want to tear down. Because I actually on the phone. One of the things that I am subscribed to is like the Nottingham Gazette or something like.
Okay.
Here in Swindon, the local rag is called the Swindon Advertiser.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Nottingham Gazette or something. Someone will write in the comment section below. But I'm sub to that because if there's any Games Workshop news, that goes through the council for their. They're doing another one. So there's actually quite a lot of building work going on. Factory 5 is coming online. It's the end of 2025.
It's smart to expand your infrastructure. That's a smart thing because maybe they hadn't done that as much in the past, and they've received a lot of flack for it for not being able to meet demand. But now
they can't make enough. They can't make enough. You're a Horus Heresy player now. 50% of the Horus Heresy products are out of stock. At any time.
It took me surprisingly a long amount of time to get hold of those Mark III Space Marines. I'm not joking.
Yeah. It took me 9 months to get Fulgrim.
Wow. Okay.
And he's a Primarch.
It also took
Fulgrim extended, not the new Demon spiky one, but
guy. And, the other one.
Yeah, many months.
It took me a long time to get those 8-bound as well. That was ridiculous, actually.
8-bound? That's a 40k thing.
That's a 40k thing, but even then. But next year, I've got a 40k dedication. I know I've got a problem with taking on too many projects, but Emperor's Children, I have to. It's been ordained. I've waited for it for too long, and here it is. Here are the Emperor's Children.
Well, not yet.
No, they're definitely but they're coming now.
They said 2025 is the year of chaos.
Yeah, it's going to be Emperor's Children next year, and I've got to do it. And they've been showing off they've showed off the Noise Marines. Although my friend has a theory, which could be true, is that we will get a Noise Marine kill team first.
Probably.
And then we will have to wait.
Yes.
Just going back to the lore thing quick.
So a good idea. So they did the Death Corps of Krieg kill team first. And then many years later, we're getting the box set finally.
Yeah.
So, it could be something like that.
Could be like that. I just wanted to say that the beautiful thing is about 30k, and I want to get this out there too. If, there's a lot of people are worried about the Games Workshop IP. What if it gets taken? What if it expands too much and 40k becomes something that unrecognizable and it changes and all in the bad way and everything? The beauty of 30k, right, is that now it is a complete work, right? The whole thing.
I mean, they could keep adding.
They could expand it.
There's still some more stories that I want to hear about around the time of the Horus Heresy and the Scouring. Definitely, everyone's up for that. But yes, I hear you.
We have a complete Horus Heresy work at the moment, which takes us through, and then we get the Siege of Terra. We can go all the way through the final part until we get to BAM, right? The end of the Horus Heresy, the point where the in-game event ends, in that sense. They can't take that away from us, Winters. No matter what happens, we have that forever, and we can play in that universe. And if 40k goes weird and wacky, and you don't like the way the narrative goes or whatever, you always have that complete work that is just fantastic.
Yeah,
and it makes me warm and fuzzy inside.
Nice
to know that.
Yeah.
Shall we?
I can't see the 40k lore going unless at some point in the future they get so big and so popular because of Henry Cavill or blah blah blah. But many reasons why it could get even bigger than it is now. The only way I see them breaking the law is, there are some changes, massive retcons that they've made, which people had already accused them of breaking the law, such as female custodies, but I would go into the change that they did to the Necrons was probably the biggest retcon they've done for a long time. They completely retconned that. The Votan, there's lots of retcons they've done over time, but it's still grim, it's still dark, it's still brutal. The only way I can see them ever breaking it and making it a bit more cheerful and a bit more flowery and a bit more kid friendly is if they get so successful they end up getting bought out by a big company that thinks, hey, look, this company is making a lot of money. Let's buy them and let's make
not
it
understand
mainstream.
Yeah.
And then that will be the beginning.
So I was thinking that it's happened to like game series and stuff that get very popular, and it's not always down to trying to appeal to the mainstream in that sense, but it's also being too afraid to. Sometimes it's being too afraid to be different as well. So it becomes, because it's a success and because it's doing really well, there are business suits in the background who are worried, are concerned about anything that strays too far from where it is, and it becomes too formulaic. But it's really, who knows what can happen. But they still, no matter what they do, we still have the entire 30k. We have all the books. We could just hold on to them. Just some old men clutching our 30k books in the corner, and I'll be on my second read through, and you'll be on your 24th read through, and we'll just live in the past. It'll be fine. Just hold on to it.
We'll always have Paris.
Should we
name that movie?
Should we answer? It's like we're nearly out of time.
Casablanca.
We got so excited. Casablanca. Frankly, my dear, I don't
give a damn. Yeah.
And then the plane flies off. Yeah.
It stands up today, Holds up today, that movie.
It's an alright film. I had to study it for film studies. And
the thing about that movie as well, Henry Bogart did it all the way through, smashed out of his head. But back then in Hollywood, black and white, they were all smashed out of their head all the time. But you can tell that sometimes he's struggling to try to...
Yeah.
He's struggling. And those drinks, those whiskeys he's knocking down in the bar... Oh, yeah. Those are whiskeys, all right.
Real whiskeys, nice.
He's having a great time with that movie. Love it. We have questions.
We have some.
We have questions. Are we going to answer some questions?
Do you fancy answering?
Not really, no.
We've had such a
they're terrible, but let's dive into some of them anyway. Last week we did rate the questions. We could rate them again.
We'll rate a few, yeah.
What are we going to rate them out of? Last time it was out of 7 flat caps.
Yeah. This time it's out of... Let's do something Christmas themed. It's out of candy canes.
Candy canes. Out of 17 candy canes there.
17
candy canes.
Sullivan Gilbert asks, which Primarch is best at Squig Game?
Of course he would. Well, thank you for asking that question, Sullivan Gilbert, and thank you for taking part in one of the most recent battle reports we had on the channel where we played Squig Game. Sullivan Gilbert, absolute G. Which Primarch is best at Squig Game? Throwing squigs or using squigs in combat. I'm going to go with Guilliman because he would spreadsheet that thing. Yeah. He would know. He would run the math. He would run the numbers. He would be like a football manager. He would figure out the most efficient way of killing people with squigs.
Yeah. I feel like
it's not an individual thing. It's a team effort, you see. So Guilliman will get that down.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking that maybe Ferrus Manus has probably got quite a powerful throw in him. I'm thinking
that's true.
He's not really built to be a good quarterback, but he could throw. He could do some Hail Marys. You know what I mean? He could throw a squig hard.
On an individual level, Manus. On a team level, probably Guilliman.
Yeah, okay. Because of the organisation. How many candy canes?
3
out of 17. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give him 2.
Nice.
Weasel asks, what country would you like to visit most? All right, Weasel.
Really?
I like the fact that Weasel's just sat there and gone, I've got a question. What country would you like to visit? Just nothing to do with anything. It's not Christmas themed. It's not Warhammer themed.
What question would you like to visit most, Chris? Have you got a country that you think I'd really like to go?
Country. I've always wanted to go to. It's not a country, but it's the country of Italy. But I've always wanted to go to Rome. I've wanted to go to Florence,
right,
as well. Okay. Countries. I mean, they're all a bit rubbish. Countries, aren't they? They're full of people.
I don't know why I would ever want to leave Swindon.
Yeah,
quite frankly, all my things are here.
Exactly. I'm going to give that 15 out of 17 candy canes. I love it. Love that question.
Okay. I'm going to give it 0.
0. Sorry, mate.
I know he wants me to say Switzerland, because guess where he's from?
Oh, I see. Okay.
But who wants to go there?
No, that's rubbish. What can you do in Switzerland? They got chocolate, and watches.
I guess you can ski in the winter time, but if you want to go skiing somewhere, you're not going to Switzerland, are you?
No.
You're going to somewhere where there's like proper mountains and proper snow
and other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, they've got fake mountains there, fake snow. It's all fake news, fake snow.
You know what? First of all, if you've made it this far, 59 minutes and 57 seconds, because we didn't do a code this time.
We didn't do a code.
I was thinking about this earlier. Can you pretend that we showed a really compelling, a video with really compelling evidence that UFOs or that aliens exist? And just be like, I can't believe you found that video. Something like that. Just big it up in the comments so that people are really confused when they try and watch this and they're not finding any clip with it.
Because of that video, because of that clip, I now believe in aliens.
Yeah, this has completely blown my mind. It's changed my perspective on reality.
That UFO footage was the most compelling ever. And if you are writing that comment in the comment section, and if you are this far into this video, you're one of the real ones.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Then we also had questions from Wrath of Constantine, A Solitary Necron, Triple D, John Luke, Runt Herder, Pickle Nick, Commander N. You it's a bit of questions. They're probably somewhere in the region of 3 to 12 candy canes.
Right.
We might come back to them later. We'll see how it goes. But we've got to do one more question, and it's because this particular person has commented on every single one of our episodes.
Right.
Giving us reviews, reviewing our episodes.
Right.
His name is
Richie.
He goes by Rico Shiva 4. He's an awful, awful, awful human being. I've had the misfortune of spending time with him. I even shared an Airbnb with him once. He's a terrible person to be around.
I've read a couple of his reviews as well, and he does not hold back.
He doesn't hold back.
How shit we are.
Yeah. He asked, what kind of festive food are they eating at Slanishmas 40k universe wide? And do they know it's Grotmas time at all? Very funny. Such a funny question. I can't stop laughing. I'm going to give you 4.5 candy canes out of 17 because you actually showed up, which is nice. Because, leaving your comments everywhere and not asking questions. What do you think, big man? Lay it on thick.
What?
What do you think of this question?
That's not a question. Does that even count as a question? What do we think they're eating? I mean...
No, just look. Let's just end this. He's completely ruined it.
I've got barely any IQ, and a couple of them just dribbled out my arsehole.
Well, thanks for ruining the end of the episode, Richie. Thanks for
Richie.
That. And we'll see you after Christmas at some point.
Yeah, minus 17 candy canes for that one.
Yeah.
Out of 17. So you're in negative 34.
Wow.
The top spot. Rate that.
Yeah. Put that in your comments and smoke it anyway. Let's get out of here. Come on.
Okay, bye. Thanks for watching.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.